Test, test, test. And good morning, everybody. Welcome back into the Dragon's Den. Little Dragon, I'm all have a great day. How's it going this morning, Wilk Allen, Shrimp Father? Hope you all are doing well today. Great Saturday morning. Little blah overcast. Things are a little wet here. That means a slow start to the day for us. But all in all, I think it's going to be a fun day. We're going to stream for a little bit. In fact, Alexa, set an alarm for 1 p.m. That's going to be my alarm that tells me it's time to stop streaming so that I can try and go and pick up Evil Diesel. We're going to go over to Echovate today and see the new digs and start talking about some opportunities. So, hey, Glendon, how's it going? Hope you're doing well today. Hope you're doing well. Got some Duncan. Got some Cactus Squatch from Black Rifle Coffee Company and the awesome Digital Dragon 3D mug. This is the light version, which we've got, I think, 12, 15, and 20 ounce. This is the 20 ounce. We also have a dark version, which I would love to show, but I broke the handle on, so I have to replace. And that's in the 15 or 12 and 15 ounce versions. Yeah, I hope everybody's doing well today. 20 ounce. Yeah, I really need like a 40 ounce double fist. One day. Actually, I don't need that. My heart doesn't need that because I will sit here and just chug them. Okay, so hope everybody's doing well today. I think we're going to be doing some wiring. Actually, I know we're going to be doing some wiring. We're going to try and at least get one of the grease wicks in. We'll prep the other one. I'm waiting on the spring to still arrive. I don't know if it's the item that's showing up today or Monday. I'm not getting the timeliness of deliveries on this stuff, but we'll go ahead and do it. I think I'll be able to tweak in the one wick, even with the motor mounted. I was also doing some testing, so this is part of what we'll be doing today is our wiring. So I got some number 8 ring terminals and, just short piece here. We tested them out. They work perfectly. They work great. Short pieces of insulation to cover the crimp areas, right? And then I tried some of this other insulation I had, which is 1/2 inch standard insulation that gets shrunk down. The problem is, well, it's good in the fact it shrinks down and it has an adhesive on the inside. I'm not sure if we can get the camera to pick it up, but there is an adhesive on the inside and it makes it one contiguous piece, but it loses a lot of its bendability and pliability. So we might hold off on that. I've got some other stuff coming that I just ordered from McMaster Carr that I think is going to work a lot better than this outer shrink that I just bought from Amazon. So we'll try. We'll at least get the connections done, and I may just have to pop the connections back off to do the outer shrink over the wires. This is me testing stuff out last night morning before stream. Now, one of the other things that I do know is on the way is I did order a new light, or not a new light, but a light off of somebody on eBay. So I will have another complete light, and I'll be able to come in and be like, hey, this one's got a bunch of rust spots on it that I couldn't seem to get off, even with evapor rust. So, which actually, as you can tell, discolored the metal itself. So what I'm going to do is do some part swapping to get the best parts to put this together. Um, but yeah, that's kind of where we're at the moment. And I think I've got enough battery. Yeah, got enough battery going on the um, mouse that I can move that, which gives me a little bit more room up here. I did go ahead and install all of our bobbin pieces. Pretty interesting. Not really pretty interesting. It was just interesting to try and remember the way everything went in. So good thing is I've got the service manual. If you're gonna start working on one of these old machines, go online. Bob Fowler has a lot of the user's manuals, the service or adjuster's manuals, and even some parts list. And like the parts list for this was something like 20 something pages long of just every single part number on the 15 series machines, which was pretty wild. But there's some exploded views in the adjuster's manual. It tells you how to go in and actually, I didn't never realize it, but there's timing requirements for your bobbin holder here. There's a spring tension requirement on this front piece, so we'll have to play with that once we get it up and running. Make sure we have the right spring tension on the bobbin so that it's feeding out the thread correctly. Yeah, there's probably going to be me spending more time with this, making it run correctly and efficiently with consistent stitching. But that's going to be me playing with the timing because I'm not sure if it was properly timed when I got it. And the only thing that would have changed timing wise, based on what I took off of the machine, would be the bobbin stuff that I took off to clean and the depth or height of the needle. So there is an adjustment there. I do have a part coming that will help me get that adjusted appropriately. So just something that I'm, like I said, learning. This is one huge learning experience here as I go through and play with this machine. I will probably do more work on this machine. Just probably, I won't do it on stream. And the reason I say I will do more work on this machine is so I did a thing. This thing's called Facebook Marketplace. It's a bad thing. It's a good thing. It depends on how you look at it. So I went out and I started looking to say, hey, are there any vintage Singer sewing machines out there? Yes. Are there any in my area? Yes. So I went and picked one up at a local guy here in my town, and it's a Singer Model 128 from 1938. So it's actually older than this one. It's going to require a lot more TLC and love. There was another one that he had that he just threw in for the 40 bucks that I bought the other one for. And that one, I'm afraid that if I put it in, like if I dunk it in Evaporust, that it might not come out. Like I might just get a couple of pins out of it. It's very bad. It makes a good boat anchor right now, but we'll see what I can do with it. But the 128, the reason I bought that is to go some steps further that I'm still very tentative of doing on this machine, which is great grandma's machine. Because there's no family attachment to that other machine, I'm going to be able to try out some things on it, like restoring the finish. Not a complete strip down, but restoring the existing finish using the techniques that I've been reading about. And if I can if I can get the technique down, then it's something that I can then come back and do retroactively to great grandma's machine, which is an heirloom, right? Always good to have a practice machine. Exactly. Welcome on in, Life in Pain. Yes, always, especially when you're trying new techniques, don't do them on family heirlooms. Try them on something else first, please. Please, please, please. Try them on something else. Um, and then I'll say don't trust everything on YouTube, but go and look at the things that are being that have a lot of high reviews, that have a lot of high comments on them that are positive. Um, Cross reference. And when you start going to Reddit forums and Facebook groups and people keep referring back to this channel, maybe you should go and look at that channel and see if they have content on your machines. And then you find out they have a lot of content on your machine. And you go, okay. Bob Fowler, the guy I've actually been watching a lot of videos from on these machines, to include completely tearing down all of the underparts and stuff in the column, pulling it out and refinishing it, which is what I'm contemplating doing down the road to this machine, is very, very good. And he stresses, make sure you have the adjuster's manual, because as soon as you take those things apart, you've got to make sure and adjust them and make sure that everything is properly aligned to get smooth motion, right? So, like I'm saying, there will be more work on this machine. It probably won't be on the stream unless there's a lot of interest in this. Which I've seen quite a lot of new faces in here, like Life in Pain. It's definitely been a fun experience, and I am so glad that this machine that we went and got it at Rocky Mountain last year, and at some point, I don't know if it'll come with us to Rocky Mountain this year. I would love to at least take the machine back and show Mrs. Dragon's, my mother-in-law, Mrs. Dragon Eagle, the Dragon's mom, the machine and how much I've done on it. Talk to her about the plans that I want to do to the machine to make it even better and bring it back even more. Right? Hey, Petty Ruxpin, welcome on in. So with that said, I'm going to go back to the bench view, and real fast before I forget to get something started over here on the rat rig, let me actually kick off a print over there. So folks, one thing I want to remind everybody: heat soak your machines. Especially heat soak your machines that are using, say, like a beacon scanner or any type of inductive scanner, because your stuff changes, not huge amounts, but it changes a little bit. The other thing is, the one I was having problems with these first layers over here as I am printing out some parts. And if you saw a video, you might know and recognize what this part is. And if anybody does, please put it in chat. And I was having very bad first layers where they were way, way, way too close to the bed. I think the part in question is still salvageable, but let's take a look at just this piece and how nicely it printed on this one. And then that same area on this print. It looks pretty good, but you'll look and you see those jagged edges all on the edges here. That's because it was way too close to the bed. And instead of doing a 0.2 layer height, it was actually doing probably a 0.06. because it was way smashed in there. It still survived. I believe it's still a usable part. Um, so I'm going to roll with it until I'm proven otherwise. But on the rat rig, they mention it, but if you're not careful, you look right over the top of it, which is when we did the beacon probe calibration, we did it open air with the panels off, and we did it, of course, at PLA temps. Completely different environment when all the panels are on. It's enclosed to do ABS printing, and the bed's now at 105C versus 60C. So be sure to calibrate your probes. It, at the very least, 150 on the nozzle, and bed at the temp that you're planning on printing at. Save yourself some struggles so you're not sitting there trying to constantly chase a highly variable Z offset. Yeah, good morning there, Petty Ruxpin. How are you doing? Life in pain. You took your grandmother's machine apart at 10 years old. Found out 30 years later I had installed a gear 180 degrees out. Put that right and machine says, exactly. You don't realize that some of these gears have to be put in the right way. And especially some of these rods down here, if they're in the wrong direction, they're just not going to line up properly. This machine, they're only going to go in one way. But on the 127, 128 series, one of these rods looks the same. And if you put it one way or the other, you're going to have a hell of a time trying to get it adjusted right. The other thing I was looking at is the bottom side here. These rods, I've seen them shiny. So that's where I'm saying I may be taking this off and taking a wire wheel to them to clean them up. But that's going to, I really need to look through the manual because you've got cam gears here. You've got alignment things that have to be done properly. So I just need to read through and understand the manual more. And when I go to do that, it's more of, I will take everything off the front end at that point, and I will really get in here and do the next level of cleaning and restoration on this. And at that point, once I've got everything off the machine, the technique that I'm going to use is called the French polish. And basically it's using denatured alcohol and some shellac to add a couple of layers, right? Or actually, it's denatured alcohol, shellac, and a little bit of oil as necessary, because as you start rubbing that on, the alcohol is going to break down the existing shellac on here, and it'll start getting tacky, right? So what we're going to do is basically add a couple of layers of shellac to the top of it, very light layers. We'll let that dry, and then we'll come back and we'll do some more, which will be shellac and oil, I believe, once again, and add some more clear sealant to it. And as we're buffing this in and buffing it around, we'll start to get a more even surface again on it. And you can even go in and do some wet sanding to take down the high spots, and you can really get these finishes back. I just want to be careful because I don't want to take off any more of the decal, and I don't want to damage that finish. And that's why I'm saying having the other machine that there's not a sentimental attachment to. We can test that out at reviving the finish of that. And if we can get that technique down, then we can do that here on Great Grandma's machine that has a lot of family sentimental value, right? You'll be back at Rocky Mountain this year, by the way. Awesome, Glendon. Awesome. Yes, we're going to be going to Rocky Mountain this year. In fact, Brecor just reached out to me. Brecor Justin just reached out to me asking me about it and also asked me for my logo. So I got to get that sent to him. We will be going to Echovate today. Me and hopefully Evil Diesel, if things didn't go off the rail with his mini-me and school again. Meaning he has to basically stay home, play parent, and get her caught up on schoolwork. But anyhow, one of the things that Beverly, who's the owner of Echovate, had mentioned was that she has tickets to Rapid TCT in Detroit next month. So I'm going to start talking to her about that, and there's the potential that I may wind up being at Rapid TCT in Detroit next month. Just throwing that out there. Okay, so a couple of things that I want to do. We're going to start working on our potted motor again, trying to figure out the final wire lengths and getting that stuff cut down to final length and terminated and everything. But one of the things that we need to do before that is we need to get our grease wicks installed. So when we go to install the grease wicks, you know, common sense says take your grease wick, put a bunch of grease on the end, shove it down in there, pack the rest with grease. Here's one problem with that. This felt won't have any real grease soaked into it, and it's not going to really start soaking into the felt until the grease starts getting warmed up, which will be from running the motor, right? It would be basically like running an engine dry, without oil or with extremely, extremely old oil or tainted oil. So what we need to do is get some grease actually melted into the wick itself. So what we're going to do, number one, I only need 3/4 of this, and I think this is 1 inch long. So yeah, I need to cut that wick a little bit. Not a lot, but we'll cut a little bit off of that wick. And then we'll do the same on the other one. And then we'll start prepping these. And by prepping them, what we're going to do is basically try and melt some grease into them. Now, there's a couple of ways you can do this. You can do it over an open flame. You can do it with a heat gun. One of the things I'm going to do is I'm going to leave this grease wick in the spring because, well, it's going to be easier to handle and deal with. And also, one less thing I'm going to have to try and do with gloves later on. So what we're going to do is I'm going to use a spoon, right? Standard spoon. Don't use the good spoons, folks. Go get a spoon. Do not let your wife or spouse, significant other, seeing you do this with her nice china or something. I'm going to put a little bit of grease down here on the bottom. I'm going to take my wicks, lay them right on top of that grease. Put a little bit more grease on the top. And then we're going to do, basically we're just going to heat it up. Like I said, you can put this over an open flame if you have a candle or something that you're doing, or you can use a heat gun. Just be mindful and be careful. You don't want this smoking. If it's smoking, take it off the heat. You've got it getting too hot. All I'm going to do is run heat over here, top and bottom. I'm going to try and start liquefying the grease so that it'll start absorbing into the felt. And the reason you want to do this is if the felt, great job, if the felt is not, doesn't have grease wicked into it, then that first amount of grease that you're putting in is going to melt into the felt before it starts getting anything else. And and it's you're going to have to add more grease a lot quicker than you normally would as you start running the machine. So like I said, we're just going to heat this up. You can heat it up from the top, you can heat it up from the bottom, and we're just going to try and, like I said, just heat the spoon up enough that it starts to liquefy the grease some, so that it'll start wicking into your felt cord material here that we're using as grease wicks. And if need be, grab your tweezers and just rotate your wicks around and keep them in that grease. Once again, you're trying to get them so that they will start to absorb some of that grease. And this way, like I said, you're not having to feed grease into the machine after 20, 30 minutes and keep basically repacking it. You can get it somewhat started, and then when you pack it, you're doing it once instead of having to do it very often. And same type of thing, if you ever take your machine completely apart, you'll have a various parts underneath there. Those rods have hollow parts in them to allow grease wicks to be installed. Darn it! So that you can add grease and oil, so they'll basically self-oil over time. So same type of thing. You would get your wick pulled into the rod, and then you'll go through and add your oil or grease to it. In that case, you would probably, I think it's all oil at that point, and oil is going to flow through the felt a lot easier than the grease does. Constantly moving things around, but what you'll see is, like, see on this end where you still have white, that's where the grease hasn't soaked into the felt. But if I turn it around, you'll see that there's not as much white present at the back end of that. So that's where it's starting to get saturated. That's all we're trying to do, is get some of this grease basically preloaded into the felt. That way, when we go to add grease later and pack that grease in, we're not just waiting for it to get pushed through the felt. Hey, Zombie, how's it going? Leftover pie day. Very true. Very true. I keep forgetting about Pi Day and actually doing a lot of content around Pi Day, even though we use a lot of Raspberry Pis in our builds and stuff. But I wanted to get this started, and now I'm just going to set it there and let that kind of cool off some, because, well, I've been hitting it with a heat gun for several minutes, and I don't want to reach down and touch it with my bare hands right now. It might be a tad bit hot. Meanwhile, we'll turn our machine around and we'll start doing some layup to figure out how much wire we need to have off of our motor, because remember, we cut it long to start with. And Zombie, thank you for the 18 months in a row subscribe. I would say, can somebody do shout outs for me, but I don't know if anybody can. Oh, there we go. Hey, Eagle the Dragon, how's it going? How's it going? Hope you're doing well, buddy. We're going to start putting some more things together. I did the bobbin piece off stream last night, Eagle, just to make sure that I could follow the guide and do it right. Yeah, that didn't do the shout out, did it? Is it, oh, I guess it helps if I actually hit the enter button instead of just doing that. So we got a zombie. We got a Glendon 3D, right? Go check out Glendon. He's doing some streaming, and he shows up on at least Pez Liz's channel every once in a while, and I think he does zombie as well. So what I'm going to do is just fit this here and see where our motor wires are going to come out and have to go around, and they need to come around the back. So we probably these wires only need to really be about that long. Take your time, test fit it 2 or 3 times. And Singer was really looking at how to minimize the amount of material, right? So they didn't really put any, we'll say, wiggle room here. I'm going to add some wiggle room so that we have available space. So if we ever need to get into this motor again, we're not having an issue. And I am going to cut one of these just a tad bit longer than the other. And that's just for me knowing which one is which lead, basically. Right? The longer lead will be the one closest to the motor inlet. The shorter lead will be the one that we basically brought from this side over and then out. So by leaving one lead slightly longer, I know which is which when I go to do the final wiring into the pins back here. Now that we've got our grease wicks pretty pre-greased, right? We'll be able to take this grease wick, and you'll notice that there's a through hole basically on one side that the grease wick can drop down into. So we're going to line that up with that grease or that hole, and we'll set it in there with the spring, and we're just going to kind of push it down in there. We're going to take our clamp. Now the clamp has a tab on it, and that tab is on one side. So that's going to be the side that's facing outward, and we're going to set this down over the spring with that tab in place. And we're just going to take it and push it down with our hand. When we do that, it should grab hold of the threads in this piece just fine. We're going to take that, push it down. If it pushes down, great. If not, you may have to use some needle nose pliers to kind of squeeze in those sides to push it down. But this is just a retaining clamp. And That's going to hold it in place until we actually put the screw on the end. I'll wait and do the other one once I get that other spring. If it comes in today, I'll do it today. If it doesn't, then I will do it as soon as it comes in, which should be Monday. So we've got that one side in. I need my grease again. And what we're going to do is just pack grease in that orifice. Okay. Yes, this grease is good in doing some more research and everything. This grease is going to be good for this application. So all I'm doing is starting to go in there and fill it in with grease. So it's this side channel here, and then I'll fill in the top as well. Really what you want is this grease to be packed in there really well. So I'm going to basically fill it to the top. And you can go in there and kind of use a finger and pack it down, or not. But what you'll have to do is go in and fill these ports over time. And what it'll be is you'll be able to open the machine up. You should hopefully be able to get both of these screws out around the edge here and just add new grease in, and you should be fine. But we get that fairly well packed in there. If you push it through, it is going to push out and around your gear, so no need to really jam it down in there. Let me grab a glove so I don't sit here and just goop up a finger for no good reason. I'm just going to take my pinky, press it in there. Okay, and now I can fill it up a little bit more. We'll put a little bit more grease up in there, and we'll keep going. Wipe as much of that excess off as I can. Can you use super lube? Possibly. EP2? Possibly. I don't know the temperature properties of either one of those as far as being in a running working motor. Right, this is going to be on gears. So we do want to make sure that we're using an appropriate oil. And I'm just going to wipe off the very top edge there, pull that over so it doesn't make a mess. I'm going to take one of my bolts and bolt that in. It seems like I'm There we go. Didn't have it straight down, so it was kind of binding a bit. There we go. We've got one of our grease ports covered up. And we'll need to do the other one. Like I said, I don't have the other spring, so as soon as the other spring comes in, I will run the spring around this one and get that added in and get the clip in as well, and we'll be good to go on that one. I am going to be ordering a lot more grease and sewing machine oil because looking at the manual, there's like 30 different ports, and I did not realize that each one of the holes in the case are oil points. And that happens to be where various wicks are, so felt wicks are in those connecting rods and stuff. So you move it to a specific position, and then you add a few drops of oil in certain parts on the machine, and that's what helps keep everything lubed up. So once again, like I said, we'll do that other one as soon as it comes in. I should be able to get in there, no problem. I'm just going to need the spring to do that. And that should be here either today or Monday at the latest. But I will get this ginned up. We're going to pull off the ends. Makes sense if I put it here. We're going to trim off the ends and put some of our number 8 uninsulated connectors on and get these crimped down. There's those two. We'll do the same thing for the light. We'll mock up the light so we know how long to cut those. What am I looking for? Strippers. Got to have the strippers. Again, this is 18 gauge. And what you're trying to do is you want the wire the full length of this shaft. So you can put it up against there, figure out about where you need to do your stripping. And strip the end. Now that you have one off, you should be able to line up the other one decently. Strip that one as well. And we'll be adding shrink tubing to this, so don't worry about that. Give these a little twist. And while I think about it, before I put a connector on it, we'll go ahead and put little pieces of shrink tubing on there. That Marvel Mystery Oil. And like I said, the stuff, stuff that I'll use for the outer ink shrink to cover this up to make it look black, that will go over the connectors that I'm adding on, so that should be fine. Hey, Sigareki, welcome on in. No broken coffee mug at this point, but we are drinking out of the light one. I need to go ahead and order a replacement for the black one. Light mode, dark mode, what have you. So we're going to put some heat shrink on these wires. Much easier to do before you do the things, strip them. But once you strip them, just go ahead and twist your wires. It'll make it a little bit easier to get the things on. Now, when you go to do these terminals, there's a specific way. What I do with my basically we're using our Pro crimpers. These have the removable jaws, and you'll notice that we're using, ow, dang, pinching ourselves. We're using the jaws that are crimping kind of like flats on the sides. And I'll show you what that looks like once I do one of these. Do not use like JSTs or anything like that to crimp these. And you'll notice here that I'm going to crimp it multiple times. And that's to ensure I'm getting crimped down on the entire length of this connector. So there's no opportunity for this connector to come off. So there, I just did that crimp. Everything's nice and crimped on there. And I will show you this crimp. There we go. Come on, here we go. And I guarantee you that that is smashed on there. Now I have seen people come in and solder the end. You should not have to do that. This is a well crimped terminal, and this is exactly the same type of terminals that they used to use. on the old machines. So we're going to be perfectly fine here. We're also going to shrink tube over the terminal ends so that there's no chance for any arcing or anything between these uninsulated ends. And by doing it this way, the ends themselves will actually be insulated with the shrink tube and thinner than if we used an insulated ring terminal. And that's going to be critical because the amount of space that we have to work in is going to be pretty limited. So our heat shrink will come right up over the end, just like that. Let me bring you guys in here some. Yep. So we're going to just take our little bit of heat shrink and we'll slide that right up over the end. And it doesn't have to be like all the way up, but it's just to the end there. And I'll do that on both of these. We'll apply a little bit of heat and that will shrink these down. And now we've got nice insulated connectors that are pretty thin compared to if we used our standard ring terminal insulated connectors. And so once again, we know that one's a little bit longer, so that's this side of the motor. Whoops, we'll need to do more of these for the light. So you need just a handful of these, and you have to buy them in like a pack of 100. You can possibly find 50, but you know, you buy them on Amazon or something like that, you're getting them in packs of 100. So it makes sense to just go out and get more sewing machines. Do more of them. Well, I sold Marvel Mystery Oil by the gallon. It was designed as sewing machine oil, and they used a lot of it. Yeah. So I bought this little bottle, right? This So Retro little bottle from the old Singer shop. And if you notice, I've used probably a third to a half of this bottle already. And I haven't done final oiling of this machine. This has just been used to clean the parts off of the enamel so that we don't damage the enamel. Now, I did just go and buy a quart of sewing machine oil because, like I said, I've got one or two downstairs. I've got requests in on a couple of more so that we can work on some of these a little bit more. Now, once again, we don't have a grease wick in over here. We do have our grease wick pre-greased, right? We heated this up and we let some of that grease soak in. As soon as I get the spring, I'll spring that up, put it in the side here and start gooping this in. But for now, we'll need to go ahead and start getting our ring terminals set up. And this is the original Bakelite that was on this machine. I do have a replacement of this coming in just in case. I have yet to figure out if the washers go on the top or the bottom. I'm going to assume probably that it doesn't matter. But this one's pretty much, it's stuck on there. It doesn't want to come off. So we'll leave this one where it is rather than breaking my things trying to get it off. And we'll just add the other two on there. one way or the other, we're going to clamp all of this down using the Bakelite terminals. And what did I do? Covered them up. I also ordered a bunch of these from McMaster Car in bulk. I ordered some more of the solder wick material from McMaster Car because it's a lot cheaper than ordering it off Amazon. If you order it from a sewing machine store, they're going to be like 1-inch pre-cut lengths that you cut down to final size. If you order it off of Amazon, they want like $50 for 5 feet. I just ordered 50 feet for like $10 from McMaster Car. So if you're getting solder wick, or not solder wick, if you're getting firm felt cord or grease wick material, do not order it off Amazon. So 2 of these solder wick pieces from the old Singer shop was $4. So I got basically 2 inches of, this is 1/8 inch felt cord, and I paid $4 for 2 inches, and I just bought basically 50 feet for $12. So you do the math there. If you're going to do 2 or 3 of these machines, or if you have 2 or 3 machines, go and buy it yourself. Go through McMaster Car is where my suggestion is going to be. It's going to be a heck of a lot cheaper, even if you have bench stock. Okay, I am going to double, triple, quadruple check which one goes where. I believe the light goes 1 and 3. This goes 3 and 2. But I'm going to double, triple check that on the guide real fast. Bear with me. Toby, will you stop being not helpful? Motor goes to 2 and 3. Light goes to 1 and 3. Foot pedal goes to 1 and 2. My foot pedal goes to 1 and 2 through the external connector, so I don't need to worry about that. So the motor goes to 2 and 3, so the center and the side. Think. Red and black to motor. Bear with me 1 second, folks. I'm just trying to double check which be which. Oh, foot pedal, motor. I don't think it really matters. Longer one we're going to put on 3, which is we'll say the positive term. Other one goes on 2, and then our light's going to go on 1 and 3. I do not have the light bulb, so I cannot test that yet again today. The light bulb, I believe, comes in Monday. We'll go ahead and screw these down. Once again, it shows the foot pedal or the actuator pedal going on 1 and 2. 1 and 2, but we do not have that pedal. Well, we have that pedal, but it's not a separately wired up thing. It wires up through the it wires up through the words on stream sometimes. It wires up through the actual wall plug. So same type of thing here. I'm going to have one of these. It's a little bit longer than the other. I'm just going to trim that way. The longer one in this case being the, I'll say the ground or the switch piece. Excuse me. The longer one, I don't know. It's not going to matter. We're dealing with an ungrounded outlet, and I keep trying to figure out which one's going to ground. We're using live and neutral. So both sides are hot. We're just switching between the two. So we'll go ahead and do the same thing here. Terminate these. Once again, I probably should have put the heat shrink on these before I cut them, but yeah, no. What I just do with my cutters. Oh, over there. We'll put these connectors on and we'll get this ready to wire up. We can probably wire it up and get the fixture put on. I'll be able to add this stuff on afterwards. I'll just take the screws back off and work with it still wired up. That should be perfectly fine. So we'll get these two crimped on there and then we'll crimped, shrink wrapped, and then we'll connect them on to the terminal there. Like I said, it'll be easy enough to pop these off and add the larger shrink tubing around the backside. Oh, the Marvel Mystery Oil? Yeah, the oil I'm using or the grease I'm using is that Singer sewing machine grease that I got from the old Singer shop, which is one of the ones suggested by Bob Fowler. Now, Bob Fowler also has a mil-spec grease that he has in a old bucket, and bucket's the only thing that I can really call it. It's an old style mill grade bucket that was old when he got it, and it's like this big 10, but it's got like the metal base, the metal top, but the cardboard with the waxed interior, right? Like old school mil spec stuff. And he's like, based on what I saw him use, like he could probably keep going for another 20 years and never use up all that grease doing these motors, because we're really not putting a huge amount in the motor to keep things going. Basically, we're setting up these grease wicks to grease this worm gear. We'll put a little bit of extra grease on the worm gear when we go to add the hand wheel. But once you get these things packed, they're good to go for quite a while. And once again, I'm crimping this twice to get the whole wire crimped. If you're doing an insulated connector, it does both sides at the same time, but this back side is expected to be over the wire. And in this case, we're doing all of our crimping directly over the bare wire, not the insulation of the wire. And that's why I'm having to do it twice, is to make sure I get a really good solid crimp on these. And then, like I said, there's no real need to go through and do like any kind of special um, what am I thinking of? Like insulation on these wires. Really, the insulation I'm doing on these two different connectors. The only reason I'm doing it is because one, I took the connectors apart when I did them, right? Why am I trying to make this difficult? Take that off. We'll take this off. Now it makes it a lot easier to put these screws in. And one of the other reasons why I am getting the other light is because, well, the two screws that are on here are two different screws. And as you can see, this one's bottomed out and it's not tight. So I've got two screws on here, and I don't think either one of the screws that was on the light fixture are actually the correct screw for the light fixture. Um, Not a bad thing, because once again, family heirloom thing. So uh, we're gonna go with it. But when I get the other screws in, or the other light in, hopefully they've got the correct screws, and I can put it back together appropriately. On you little devil. Stop right. So, okay. We're not going to wire up the light yet because that's going to fight me for no apparent reason. There, where'd my go in there? In that case, I am going to leave the light off for just the time being because I don't want it to just be flopping around because it'll get in the way. Wired up. I did test that we get what am I thinking of? Continuity in the light housing. We've got everything cleaned up. So I think at this point we're just going to slip our motor on the shaft. Locked appropriately so the threads line up, drop the screw, have to fish the screw out. This might be a good time to magnetize. Does that help at all? Yes, hopefully. Hey, look at that. I'm going to tighten that one down all the way until I get the other one in. One magnetized, one not. That's interesting. It was like playing Operation. Okay, the motor on. And like I said, this is the reason that this grease wick is the one I closed. This is the one I opened. I'm going to have a lot more room to get to this, laying this over on the side, than I would be able to get to this one. So our wires here, we need to manage around and behind this piece, right? This will be our socket. We've got the long screw that goes through the socket into this piece. Now, one thing to remember, every single one of the screws on these old Singer sewing machines are flatheads. Every single one. If you get one that's not a flathead, somebody put a wrong screw there. They grabbed one that, they needed a screw, they grabbed what they had on hand. This is going into the bakelite. Do not crank down on that. You don't want to snap this bakelite. This receptacle right here is $37. So you don't want to break these bakelite pieces if you can help it. Okay, so we've got our power outlet in, we've got our motor in. We're going to be installing our hand wheel. Now, I did not take this apart and repack it. Partly because I need to break out the feeler gauges, and I'd have to find my feeler gauges. Well, you know what? Hold on a second. Do I have my feeler gauges? Handy. I do. Okay. So if I can find my 8th feeler gauge in here, then maybe we will break this apart. I have an 8th feeler gauge. I do not. So we do not want to break that apart. Does anybody know what 8 thou is in millimeters? Asking for a friend. I'll have to go grab different feeler gauges. Maybe while I'm out today. So you'll notice, maybe if I can get this up here, that there's a little bit of give in this gear, right? It's made that way to deal with the shock of the motor starting up. You can undo these 3 screws. This ring comes off. You can pull this gear out, and then underneath there is a spring, and then there's 2 concentric pins. What you really should do is pull those concentric pins out, clean all the old grease out, clean up the pins, polish them up if you need to, put them back in, put some grease in that channel, drop the spring back in. There's one static post. You would put one end of the spring on that static post, and the underside of this gear, this tooth gear, has a pin. and that goes in the other side of the spring. What the two concentric pins allow is for that spring to ride all the way around and not contact the inner or outer edge of the hand wheel. And that's what gives you that little bit of give and backlash so that when the motor kicks in, it doesn't snap this ring. Because once again, the teeth on this ring are a plastic, not a metal. Okay, metal worm drive, plastic here. So what I will do is put a bead of grease on the worm gear. Okay. And this stuff seems to flow quicker than our EP2 grease and the EP2 syringes. So that's just an interesting tidbit. High-speed electrical machinery, pure non-flowing compound. Maintains consistency, high lubricating. I really wish I knew what type of grease this was, because like if basically it equates to this, then I don't need to buy any for quite a while. Or if this will work, the ones that I've seen or that were mentioned has been that mil-spec grease, an Aeroshell, which is a mil-spec grease. You know, that's, I don't want to say hard to find, but it's going to be a little more expensive because you're probably not buying it in a tube. You're buying it in a big bucket. So we put some grease on the top of the worm gear in here. We're going to take our hand wheel, and that's going to go on, and we'll have to wiggle it to make sure that those teeth line up. Okay, everything feels like it's lining up. We'll have our I don't know what it's really called. Hey, West 31, how's it going? We've got the teeth prongs here. Now, the way this goes in, these teeth prongs are kind of bent up towards these posts. Okay, so this is kind of the cam lock here. So you're going to line this up in the gap, or in the gap of the end, and if it falls out, put a little bit of grease behind it, or Assembly Lube or grease, it'll be fine. We're going to take our end cap and screw this in. Okay. Now this should be able to move just a little bit, and I'm trying to see where we're at. I'm going to go ahead and screw this through. So this will be basically a stop post. It's a shoulder bolt. This will go in. We don't want it so tight that it presses and we can't rotate this any, right? We want to be able to rotate this and not rotate the motor all the way in. Where's my pen at? Okay, and that's what I was afraid of. So you get two chances, right? And we'll just say that I chose poorly. So I'm going to back this out some, so that I can undo this completely, take it back off. And the reason I say you have two chances, well, because this can go in one of two orientations, this way or this way. And it apparently needed to be this way, so that when I screw this in and tighten it all the way down, which push those inner teeth in so it grips the center shaft, right? So that's all the way over. which is closer to the pin this way. So that way that becomes the stop pin. And when I push this, or when I screw this down in there, I will hit a stop pin going this way, and that tightens everything up. So when the motor runs, it's going to spin the hand wheel and the shaft and move the needle. If I'm ever doing just the bobbin and I'm loading the bobbin, I don't want the whole front end going, right? So I'll hold the wheel and I'll turn this back until it hits the stop. That's now made this loose, and that cam, that little cam bushing that we put in there, those teeth have now come up and the wheel will still move, but the center shaft won't. So remember, my bobbin uses this rubber wheel on the edge of this inner race. So when I put my bobbin on, flip this down, it's engaged on the hand wheel. As the hand wheel moves, the bobbin's going to spin and load the bobbin. When it's done, this will automatically pop up. I can stop the motor. I'll grab the hand wheel, turn this down, which will re-engage the shaft going all the way through the front and the front of the machine. Hopefully all of that just made sense. If it didn't, I'm sorry. I don't know how else to explain that. It's, like I said, it's basically a locking washer for the shaft that goes through the whole assembly. Okay, so grease wick stuff right there. Extras that will go on bench stock. Neither one of these actually fit this properly. So we're waiting for our new light fixture to come in, and we'll grab the 2 screws off of that mounting plate. And the real reason I bought this is, once again, this is Bakelite, this is plastic, and this one is cracked. So what I can do is I'm going to clean this really, really well in the, just take downstairs, it's plastic, so I'm going to wash this up really, really well. And then from this side, I'm going to put a little bit of 5-minute epoxy in to that gap, close it up. While I'm holding it tight, I will wipe off any excess on the outside with probably like an alcohol swab, and just let this sit and dry, and that should repair this. Will you still see the evidence of a crack there? If you're right up on it, you will. Right? But I will have another full light that I can mix and match parts to make the best for this machine, right? It made sense to you? Uh-oh, that's getting dangerous. If I'm making sense to Westery, who's not tinkering. Okay. Once again, these metal parts, I think we're good there. We don't need the light on. Oy. Like I said, I did get my bobbin all put back together in here. It was just a couple of pieces. It really wasn't that difficult. I was just scared. I got our needle back in. Our presser foot is in place. Once again, I've got a tool coming to help make sure that this presser foot is got the proper distance, so that it's doing the right amount of pressure on the dogs, the feed dogs. And that's fully engaged. That's good. But I have to be able to set the distance between the bottom of this dog, or the pressure foot, between here and this top plate is 5/16. So I've got a precision machine piece that's going to let me do that. I'll also be aligning the needle front to back. And then this up here drives the tension on the spring. So this is how much pressure is applied to the fabric and then onto the feed dogs. And apparently I want at least 3 full threads showing to start with. And there's the 3 full threads. Now, I did pull out, I'm going to have to, that's overhead. Is my overhead camera going to work for me? And it's so far away, it's pointless. Okay, so we've got the 2 pieces right here at the top. This is the bushing that our needle presser bar slides into. There is a wick that goes in here, an oiler wick. You can either put the oiler wick back in there and oil through that wick, or you can just drop a couple of drops of oil in there as you're sewing. I did pull this out. It was pretty nasty. I do have some replacements that I've ordered that I will be able to put in both of these, because once again, you want an oiler in here as well, or just be putting a couple of drops of oil. And then once again, each one of the holes in here are oiling points, and the machine has to be in a specific orientation so that you can drop a couple of drops of oil in these, and it's going to go right onto an oil wick in the different parts and pieces within the tool head here. Same thing for the back here. You'll take off the cover, you'll bring it into a specific position, you'll stick your oil or your oil through the back here, and you'll drop a couple of drops of oil in there, and that's just to keep the machine working with no issues. Now, with all of that said, we've got the rear end attached. I can go ahead and put the front cover on. I'm going to hold off for just now of putting that on. We're going to plug this in again, and we're going to apply a little bit of power. Once again, the reason my foot pedal is not wired up into this back connector is because it is through wired. Whoops. I guess it helps if I go to the right. The reason my foot pedal is not attached to the terminal block is because that connection is done in the power inlet side. And normally these are Bakelite as well. You can undo the screws and you can rewire these. This is, I'll say, a new wire, and it is rubber molded, right? So I'm not going to get in here and redo this wiring. I would have to find an old Bakelite one, and then I could get the cord itself and rewire it by hand. So what we're going to do is we're going to plug this in the right orientation. I'm going to take this and get it out of the way of the machine and all the moving parts. Come on. Out of the way of the machine and all moving parts. There we go. Put rubber ducky back up out of the way. I can plug the machine in now. Okay. And slowly, I'm going to depress this button. So this is a rheostat. It's basically a dial potentiometer, but in a up and down motion. That's the best way that I can explain it. So as I push this down, you're going to see everything start translating if things are, yes. So that's what we're looking for, is movement. This is the first time that we've run the motor dry on the bench. This is going to be the first time we're running the motor, and let me go ahead and cover this up so I don't start shooting grease out the underside of this. I just thought about that. I was like, hey, I've got grease on that gear. As soon as I hit the motor or power, it's going to shoot grease out if I don't cover that up. So we should get movement at the front here as I push down. Okay, everybody see that? We got our movement. I'll pull you guys in a little bit closer here. So as I push this down, you're going to start seeing everything going, and this bobbin is going in conjunction with the needle. So the needle's going to come down, start to make a loop, and the bobbin's basically going to get caught in that loop, or the bobbin thread would get caught in that loop, and that's how you make the stitch. And then on each downstroke, the thread, when the thread comes up, on the downstroke, the presser foot is coming down. It grabs the fabric, and the feed dogs kind of come back some. So that's what advances the fabric as it goes to go back in, grabs the bobbin thread, completes the stitch, foot comes up, pressure is relieved, foot starts to come down, add pressure, and move the fabric through. Now, if I hold the wheel, so what I'm going to do is hold this wheel, and I'm going to turn that silver knob forward. That should now disengage the whole front end. I will push this down, and when I start the motor up, the bobbin winder should be moving, but nothing in the front should be moving if everything is working right. All right, I'm still getting, all right. Yeah, so that's what we're doing. The bobbin's now winding. So everything's winding back here. And this was moving to start with, but I think my knob just wasn't fully loosened. So nothing's moving up front. If I hold this, tighten this down, now I should have movement back up front, which I can hear and you can't see because I had you not looking in the right way. So loosen the back up and push down. It's moving back here. The motor's running, but this isn't moving up and down. Let things stop. Hold the wheel. Tighten that rear locking cam. And now when I push down, we're going to get movement back in the front. We've got a working machine. How about that? We have a working machine. Whoops. Do that. Now, what we'd be able to do is take our front plate, which has our tensioner. This is the tensioner for the thread. Basically got that little eyelet catch. You lay that on there. We push it down. We'll tighten this up. Grab the right of the 15 screwdriver, the right one of the 15 screwdrivers I had. We'll tighten this down. And now that front inner working is covered up. So all that's left is to do the light, mount the light, do the other grease wick so that we have everything fully greased in the back. And then I'll start working through looking at the adjuster's manual to go through and get the right things in the right position to oil at all the various points and make sure that everything is properly oiled. Probably go ahead and add a couple of drops right here while I think about it. And once again, I will most likely be taking this apart off stream again and doing a more in-depth cleaning after I get a little more confidence from working on the other machine that doesn't have the family background to it, or at least not family background to our family, right? I'll go ahead and unplug this from the back. Everything's working. That's great. It seems to be in decent timing. I won't know if it's perfect timing until I actually run some thread and stuff through it to check the consistency of the stitches. The next step for this project, though, is taking all of the hardware. And there's some extra bobbins, and I did get the service and operators, or the adjuster's guide. So we have the user's guide, which is the smaller book here. This is a reprint. So this is the user's manual, the instructions. So this tells you how to use the sewing machine. And when you notice that you're not getting consistent stitching, if you're skipping stitches and stuff like that, something's not properly timed right. That's where you get into the adjuster's manual. And I've got both of these that are going to stay with the machine, but I also have both of these in PDF, so I can look at them without opening these up, keep these nice and pristine with the machine as it goes to other parts of the family, so we can keep everything nice and pristine. Spare bobbins and extra parts. I will take these and toss them in there as well. These are going to be part of my bench stock going forward. Who knows if I continue to do this or start doing this as another little side hustle here or there. Our other plate here, this has a spring like tab on it. You should be able to line this up at the front and push it straight on. When you go to pull it off, it's going to catch and it's not going to come off. Give it a slight twist, lift it up, do a little twist, and it pops out. I have no idea what all of these things are called yet. I'm sure there's dog feeds, dog feet, this, that, and everything else. But for now, I'm considering this machine done. Yes, I've got a couple of other small things to do to it. We'll worry about that down the road. I'm going to take this and just set it off the bench for the time being. Put it on the ground, make it a major tripping hazard, you know. I don't know where I'm going to put it. Probably want to put it right there where I've got stuff so it's out of the way a bit. Oh, getting that cord moved over. We'll put it right there. I'll set down the stairs so it can be a tripping hazard over there. Rat rig stuff we'll scoot over. So the rat rig box, for those of you that weren't on our last stream, I did get the spindle for the rat rig mill. That spindle is a 1.5 kilowatt. I had ordered a 2.2 kilowatt. Basically, they said neither one of the manufacturers recommend running the 2.2 on a 110 connection. So they have sent the 1.5 for safety reasons. And I'm good with that. I want to put this up, and then we'll get this fun little package out. And when I say put this up, I also mean I need to put away the bits and stuff so that I can find them when needed. Smaller of the two. The other one here, yeah. And yeah. Got to keep these and make sure, because this is going with us to the show in case we need to do any repairs while we're there. Now I'll have my kit. Evil Diesel will have his. And what do you guys think about me building something at Rocky Mountain Rep Rap Festival? Maybe say something that we build and gets given away by the vendor that provides whatever I'm building. Hey, Nick, how's it going? So Nick, you missed it. We've got the motor put together. We're still missing one of the grease wicks. I'm still waiting on the spring to come in. Once that spring comes in, I'll put the second grease wick in for the motor. Um, the but we had it up and running. We verified that motor works, so that's cool. Um, this is all the extra vats and parts that I ordered with this. So we'll hold this aside. This is our wash and cure station. So got a wash and cure station, and we have our TinyMaker. You may have seen this on Akuna Mods, and I think Uncle Jesse has one as well. But my TinyMaker finally arrived. I did back them on Kickstarter. Um, we've got a scraper. We've got a 128 megabyte card. Don't know what I'm going to be able to put on there. And this is one of the things that you could get. This is a second or a replacement circuit board in case my circuit board fries. Or guess what? This is an open source design. I can use this and build my own resin printer. It's going to be a small resin printer, but I could build a resin printer. You can get all of the parts for this printer separate and make your own. That is packing foam. These are packing foam and my two squeeze bottles. They're opaque, but I will have squeeze bottles that I can put some resin in, because the whole purpose of this little guy right here is to be able to take it with you and go traveling. So we've got the travel case. The travel case has a tray that goes at the bottom, and that tray will hold the printer on one side and the wash and cure station on the other, so that it's all packed nicely and stays in here and you don't have any issues. But we're going to open this little guy up. Once again, this is the TinyMaker. This is a small resin printer, and I love the packaging. This is a pallet, a little plastic pallet. You've got your forklift driver. You've got your little tiny machine resin printer. You even have the, how to move and lift stuff. Yeah, the packaging on this is extremely cute. We're going to go ahead and snap our straps. Actually, let me take a picture of this guy before I snap the straps. So we'll snap the straps, and we'll look at the pictures on the box a little bit nicer. Get the straps out. Oh, I'm going to have to. All right. I'll throw these down there. Step on them later. So we've got the be careful of tipping over. Don't drop it on a corner. Yeah, carry it on your back. That would be great. Truck is good. Flatbed truck, keeping it up. Two-person carry. Two-person carry up the stairs versus trying to break your back. Love the packaging. The packaging on this is top tier amazing. Box comes right off. And there's our cute little guy. Nice cardboard or light board, some foam around the bottom, and we got foamage inside to protect everything. And again, this just went down like that. Yep. Very, very nice packaging. Real good quality. Yeah, this is a cute little guy. So we'll pull him out. A little bit of heft there. Not gonna lie, we've got stickers that'll go on the buttons. USB and some Allen keys. And that's it. I'll go ahead and put the box back together and set that aside. And do the tape at the bottom. Pull that off. And there is the little guy. Once again, we've got the top. This all taped together, so we'll take the tape off. Let us pop the top off. We've got a warning on the top. This cover may block 98% of UV light, but UV resin is very sensitive. Please avoid placing your TinyMaker in direct sunlight. So you'll notice that this is not like the green tinted one that you're used to seeing on things like the Mars or actually any of the resin printers. So that's just something to be aware of. Once again, this is made to be portable and be able to take and show people. Practicality wise, you're not doing large prints on these, right? Hey, Hitchmaker Space, how's it going? Welcome in, welcome in. And just unscrewing these screws that'll hold our vat down eventually so that we can get our build plate. Now, this is fairly hefty and substantial for build platage because this is an aluminum billet. And here with scissors right next to me. Somebody needs to yell at me and say, hey, use the tools that are sitting right next to you. So there's your build plate. That's how big you can do things. So this is really going to be for miniatures, right? I'll have to do some reading on how everything goes together here. There's your vat. Once again, your vat is got a cover to protect it. You've got the max fill line in here. This is a sloped spot, and as you can see, you're not taking a lot of resin either. So it's not like if you use a quart of resin with this, you're going to be able to use that quart for quite a while. You've got the screws on here become registration pins on the base. So you've got depressions on all four corners on the base. The screws that are holding your FET bond to the bottom here line up and become locating holes. There we go. And then you'll be able to screw your vat back down. Again, this is injection molded plastic, so you want them tight, but not super tight. You don't want to crack things. This is a storage lid, so if you've got a little bit of resin in there, flip this back, unscrew your screws, put this back on, screw it back down. It's got the nice rubber seal. It'll keep all the resin in here for transportation. Okay. Now I'm probably going to have to go to their page because there's no little instruction manual for this, but there is a link. I'm going to have to do some research on how to get this thing up and running. You'd think I would have done that before the stream, but yeah, I didn't. I was too busy ordering things for sewing machine projects. Hey, Pezliz, how is it going? You can find Quick Start video on YouTube. The videos on our channel are limited, but we'll be posting more in the future to help you master resin 3D printing. We encourage everyone to join our Facebook group. There are many helpful friends in the group. When you receive your TinyMaker, feel free to ask any questions, share your experiences with the group. There's a Facebook group and a series of YouTube videos that we can go and look at to figure out how to use our machine. I'm assuming that that little cardboard piece is for shipping and will come out and will not be needed. Just looking at how everything goes in. So our build platform, you've got a little depressor piece in here. The build platform should go in, lock on that depressor piece. Unscrew it. Build plate goes in. Depressor piece will self-align. Build plate's locked in with a dovetail joint and a screw down peg, basically as a locator pin. So once again, we've got a locator pin set up there. I also like the entire case is clear, so you can see all of the inner workings. Kickstarter special, TinyMaker has come to life because of you. Yep. So we've got little comments in here thanking all the Kickstarters. But you get to go through and see the inner working. Once again, there's that PCB, and we do have a spare PCB. Got the SD card terminal here on the side, so that's where we put our SD card with our files that we've sliced in the slicer. Should be where's my little pull tab? Or actually, I think that's a protective cover over it to keep resin from getting on there. But there's our little TinyMaker. Like I said, you're going to be basically printing tabletop miniatures on this. You're not going to be doing anything big and major. Once again, this is not a fully blockable UV top to it. So it does give you the warning at the top that it will block 98%, but UV resins are very sensitive. So know where you're at. If you've got a window like I've got back behind here, pull your shades. That's one of the reasons why I had this white, it's the poster board that folds up for science fair projects and stuff. So it's a project board. That's why I had that there, because if you remember, I used to have a table here with my resin printers. So that was a stop you know, that's one way of doing like a stopgap, having blackout curtains over there or something, probably be better off as well. But I'm going to have to look at the YouTube videos to figure this little guy out here. So I'm not going to be running them today. And once again, we did get little stickers that we can put on our machine, or we can leave them off. It's up to us. Whoops, actually, I thought that was a protective layer, but no, we've got it. There we go. We've got a peel. That took one button off, no big deal. Because it pops right back in. Very little settings on here. They do suggest using Anycubic or, what was it, Anycubic or Elegoo resin as a good starting point. I have both of those, so that's good. We'll be able to give this little guy a try here. But once again, I'm going to have to do some figuring out, do a little bit of reading. And before I try and start doing that, let me clean up from the other project we were working on. And by clean up, I mean put some of the tools away so I don't have as many out here in the way. These two can go back downstairs. How are you doing today, Pez Liz? Hope you're doing well. And yes, we've got a baby printer. This is our TinyMaker. I was one of the Kickstarters for this. I know we've seen, I think it's Akuna Mod and Uncle Jesse. I'm not sure who else had one that did a video, but I know at least those two have them and did some videos. Sorry about that if that came over the audio. I just snagged a quick bite of something to eat. YouTube. TinyMaker. Yes. So we've got videos by Uncle Jesse and the TinyMaker folks themselves. So let's take a unboxing and first print look. We put you guys over here on full display. And of course, YouTube and its commercials. Flip off the straps. Make sure that you lift with your back, not your legs. Of course, I'm kidding. Lift with your legs, not your back. Card. We're using to check out. We've got our printer, USB cable, Allen keys, and some button decals. Yep, we unscrewed that. Took that out of the packaging. So far, so good. I was actually able to do things on my own without having to look at the manual. That means it's intuitive. You're working out your pinched nerve. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I've been having issues with my right arm, kind of between here and here. If I hold it like this for too long and go to extend it out, I get a really, really weird feeling right here in that elbow. One of the other things I get to talk to the doctor about. Okay, so we did all that, which was unscrewed the top, which pulled up that depressor bar, slide it on with the dovetail, tighten it back down. Yay, remove the cardboard, did that. Now we need our SD card. Put the SD card in. Plug in power. Pull off the warning on the back because that's covering the power port. Put in some resin. Do the max fill line. Look, they've got several base models already pre-sliced. Nice. Hey, Waters, how's it going? Yes. So this is our little tiny machines. I don't know how long it will take to do this. But we will. I'm not going to start a print today because I need to get other things set up. But I will do a test print on this before the next stream. Next stream, which will be Tuesday, we will print with this. But basically, I don't want to try and push. Okay. What I was saying is I don't want to get into this and start the mess of resin printing just now because I'm going to stop at 1 and actually go down to Ecovate and try and bring Evil Diesel with me. And we'll head down to Ecovate. Okay, so we've got some zip ties. Not sure why we have zip ties. We've got zip ties. We've got some couple of spare screws and bolts. We've got a carry straps. I believe this will get used on this. That's an I believe. I'm not 100% sure. Either that or this is might be bungee straps to strap things down onto the tray for transport. Don't know. But we do have the different areas here. I believe this will go here. This guy goes there. We've got a spot for our bottles. And I believe this will sit down on there to protect the bottles. And yeah, everything is ready to rock and roll. Let me get the stuff off of our wash and cure station. Meanwhile, I will flip back here and this obviously was if you got the case just for the TinyMaker, it's, sitting here talking like you guys are seeing the video and you're not. So let me then show the next video. Back over here to full display. The next little video here shows one of the carry cases. This is if you got the carry case just for the printer and you didn't get the wash and cure station, like you were going to be using your own. I do have the small wash and cure station. This is, of course, be like obviously like the kit. So one of the things I need to look at is what is the, um, you notice that he's powering that off of a power bank and running a print. Just saying. Um, I need to figure out which, God, sometimes language. I need to figure out which slicer to use, and also which, well, resins, I believe they said Anycubic and Elegoo works fine. So, link to the old Indiegogo project. TinyMaker review by Kunamod. Cuteness Overload. Denise Wang. TinyMaker first print. So Genius Joe, yeah, there's Uncle Jesse doing some. So yeah, these are, we're gonna have to check these folks out. And yeah, just a couple, 3 videos by them. Majority of the videos are by the creators. Box, yeah, and I know I have a slicer because I do have a Mars 2 Pro. I just need to figure out what slicer. I'm sure whichever slicer will work, right? You just got to make sure you put in the right parameters. But there are a couple of pre-built models on here. You'll have your little wash station after I just put my little thing on. But we'll have our wash station, our cure station, right? So we'll probably have to do some taking off the cover over the LEDs. So it's just a little board LED. Go back to the side view. For our wash station, IPA, you've got a little pill down here. That pill is magnetized to the base. Set it on there. That'll line up. You've got your 2 buttons, and then your button for your LED light. And overall, once again, everything is completely see-through. So you get to see how everything is installed and plugged in and working. It's very, very simple. Very simple, right? So it looks like 3000 RPM DC motor. So RF 300C mini DC motor. So they even tell you on here what DC motor it is, running at 3000 RPM, uses M2.5 screws. We've got a reflector on here with an LED strip, basically. A couple of JST connectors. God, those are those tiny, stupid, crazy things that you would use to plug that in, to cure. Does not look like it has a turntable for the cure station, so you will have to be mindful of that. Like I said, we did get 2 opaque squirt bottles, so I could take my resin, put it in these for travel, and use these to fill up the vat. Because once again, here's your printer. There is your max fill line. You're not putting a ton of resin in this thing, right? So having small squirt bottles that you can fill up, I've got 2 of them that I can fill up and then take it with me. And like I could literally, if I wanted to, I have everything here. I could take this to the game store with me and actually print out a miniature while we're playing D&D. And then wash and cure it at the same time. So this is a cool little thing. I need to get the stickers on here. And like I said, with the kit that I got, I've got the spare main circuit board. So if my circuit board dies for any reason, I've got a spare. Now this doesn't look like it has the surface mount components, so I'd still have to get whatever of those, but those files, to my understanding, are available. I do have, in my other box here, a second plate or build plate. I've got something else, an exposure screen. So this is a second exposure screen. Exposure screen and screen stickers. It does not tell me the resolution on the screen waters. I'd have to look that up on their website. And I also have a couple more of the vats. So the nice thing with having a couple of vats is if you're using different colors or different material, you can pull it out. Of course, you'd want to put it in something to keep it out of the light. So I could literally keep this box the way it is, have my spare vats with different colors or maybe water soluble and standard resin, what have you, and have those always at the ready and not have to worry about mixing resins and stuff like that. So I did get a few extras when I bought the kit because I just figured it was worth having the spares now rather than later. And also, if Evil Diesel wants something to play with and try and design or build his own little resin printer, he can, because he likes to tinker with things like that. Once again, the vat covers, and each one of those vats had a cover, does have a silicone gasket to it, and it is sloped so that you can cover everything up, and it will keep that resin from sloshing around. So if you have resin in the vat and you're going to pack it up and go someplace, put your cover on, put your lid on, put your cover on, screw it all down, put your lid in, slide the whole tray into your bag, and away you go. And once again, like I wanted to see, there are some through holes on here. So there's a through hole here, one here, one here. So that tells me that the bungee straps that we have, these will actually be used to secure the printer and the wash and cure station in or to the tray when you're traveling. And then this piece here, either I believe goes right there. Oh, and then that would be the screw and the nuts that will hold this to the tray. That would be why we have the screw and nuts. This will screw and hold it to the tray, and we'll have a place to put our water bottles, or squeeze bottles, and all our other accoutrements that will go in the case. We can get that set up. Like I said, I didn't have a whole heck of a lot more to do, and I did not want to get into printing at this point in time because, yeah, it's resin, and I don't want to print with it and then leave and not be able to do the wash and cure right away. So we will print on this in the next stream. Don't worry about that. We'll try and get our stickers prepped on here. We'll get our piece here put together. And I'm looking at this, just trying to figure out, I think my nuts go in here, and then the screws come up from underneath. So our square nuts will slide into the slots. We'll line this up like so, and we'll bring our M3 screws that I keep dropping everywhere up from the bottom. Tighten them down. Don't ugga-dugga crank on these. There's no need to. You're plastic into plastic, doing a compression here. And just like that, we now have this front piece. Once again, we have a spot here for our wash and cure station to sit. This is held on with the magnet, so it's pretty stable as it is. This side over here, not so much, so that's why the strap goes over the light box portion. Get it lined back up. So the strap will go around the light box portion, and then the strap comes through here, and that will latch down and hold the printer itself. And there's your little travel setup, so you can take this places like to shows. Get our little bottles out, get those prepped and ready. The sewing machine is back assembled. We have run it. It is doing sewing machine things. I need to, I'm waiting on one more spring to show up so I can put the second wick in place. And once I get the second wick in place, then I'll be able to really run it and break it in. You'll want to break some things in. I also need to go through the service guide and make sure that I oil things appropriately. And to do that, you have to move things into certain positions. Basically, like it's like doing an engine, right? You need this to be top dead center. You place oil here, or you put this piece in now for timing and stuff like that. That's basically what you're doing with your sewing machine, is you're getting it into each appropriate place. So when you're putting oil in through the frame, it's going directly into a felt oil wick, and that's what helps keep everything oiled up. So we've got this, we've got our little bottles, we'll have our scraper that can go on the side. Looking at this, I'm like, nah, maybe I'll put my bottles of resin in the side as well with my scraper, and that'll help keep things up and out of the way. We do something like that. Once again, we put our straps in and be able to strap everything down. We need to put our little decals on. Get our straps in here and ready. Okay. Does Polymaker Joel have one of those or one of these? I didn't know if he did or not. Like I said, I know Akuna Mods does, and I know Uncle Jesse does. But these are, I think these are cool little setup. This one is the light and stuff, so this will be the buttons that go one way or the other, and then the light over here. It's turn the light on and then turn the light off, I believe. I think it's all manual. Hey, Jano, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. How are these decals? Okay. I don't think these are cut out. Don't think these are cut out ahead of time. And I'm not sure if there's. Hmm. Yeah, I may be cutting these out myself. because they do not look like they've got the die cut marks around them. So I'll have to get in there with some scissors and cut these out myself. Probably be easier to do with a little bit smaller scissors. Well, if they provide them, it'd be great if they provide them with a little bit of a little bit more polish. But hey, we've got it. The machine's been long awaited. Um, so yeah, I mean, this is your wash and cure station, and this is your actual printer underneath it. So you're basically like here, Jano. Here is your build plate. That's your build plate. So yeah, as Waters looked up, the build volume is 30.6 by 40.8 by 60 millimeters. And the resolution of the screen is 240 by 320, so 200 dpi. So I do have a spare build plate. I've got 2 extra vats. And I went ahead and ordered a spare screen because I figured if anything's going to go out, it's probably going to be the screen. And I also have a spare circuit board for the main circuit board for the printer. So I got a lot of main things already. And as far as the so we've got everything set up. Very easy to do if you've done any resin printers in the past. You've got a 128 megabyte card that comes with it. Goes right in the side there. You've got the peel off sticker on the back. This is just warning, please use a reliable 5-volt 2 amp adapter or power bank. Voltage fluctuations from poor quality sources may damage sensitive components. So we'll peel this off. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to move this to the side and stick it right back on there. So it reminds me that I need a reliable 5-volt 2 amp power bank. And this connects up via a USB cable. That's your power. All your files are moved with the SD card, right? So you can plug this into a wall wart for your cell phone, or a power brick if you've got a power brick. I use these Kamashi. They're a what is this? This is a 1000 milliamp hour, 37 watt hour, 5-volt 2 amp max. Output 1 is 5-volt 1 amp. Output 2 is 5-volt 2.1 amp max. So I normally have it on output 1, and what you'll see me do is I'll take this, put it in my pocket, and plug it into my mic receiver if my transmitter or receiver goes out. I have one that sits over there to plug into the receiver, and one I plug into my transmitter for my lav mic. So I can use this. I've got another power bank I can use, or I can plug it in to my power strip. These are new power strips that I got. For the bench, I'm going to mount one on the other side there, but this is an Anchor power strip. So you've got USB-C PD, so power distribution, and then the other two. And I do believe all of these are at least 2 amps on the power on the USBs, or I could just wall wart it and plug it in and run this. But the nice thing is these are small enough. The prints that you're going to be doing on this is small enough that you can run it off of a power bank. So For the screen itself, I'm not 100% sure. Yeah, that's True Waters. Um, yeah, having a daughter board specific for the power would be great. However, that would then also increase manufacturing costs. And the um, the whole purpose of this was to make it very, very inexpensive, right? And get this machine out to as many people that can try it. This is obviously not going to be a workhorse machine, right? This is to dip your feet in, um, to get used to the very, very basics of resin printing as a hobby. Um, but yeah, it's going to be a cool, I think, little machine to play around with. And if I need anything bigger, well, I'll go and get my Mars 2 from Evil Diesel, or better yet, just make Evil Diesel print it for me since he has my machine. And if I need anything really big, he just got a Saturn. I think it's a Saturn 12K. Okay, so I just cut out a little circle of that, and this is our brightness or the lights. So this will go on the light spot there. Yeah, probably use tweezers, not a big fingernail. I can get this back off and move it into an appropriate spot using tweezers. There we go. But yeah, wash and cure station. You've the whole thing packs up into a little carry case. There was two ways that you could get it. You could get the carry case for just the printer if you just wanted the printer, or you can get the whole shebang. I went ahead and got the whole shebang because why not? Um, who wants to print in something small like this and then carry around a Mars wash and cure station? You know, and when I say Mars, I'm talking about the wash and cure station from my Mars Pro. I can't remember. I know it's a different name. But yeah, that's going to be the big thing is the USB connector. You're going to have to be careful about that so you don't damage it. Because yeah, like you said, once you damage it, it's going to toast the board, which is another reason why I got a spare uh, circuit board for it. Using tweezers is a lot better when your tweezers actually tweeze. Yeah, you just get these lined up, press down on it. Um, yeah, the newest ones are looking really good. I have not seen the new ones from EPAX. I think I just saw that they released a newer one. Um, but yeah, like Evil Diesel does a lot of the miniatures um, for people at the game shop and stuff. And then every once in a while, he'll be asked to do a larger one because they're doing features for D&D or what have you. Um, I have no idea if I just put these in the right order or not. I'm assuming the left button makes it go counterclockwise, the right button goes clockwise. Um, that could very well be a major assumption on my part. Um, yeah, I need to get some more of these. These are cheap ones. I can't remember where I got them from, or they may have come in a kit that I got or something else. Definitely needs to be better. I do like that they gave us two sets of these so that if you're, um, you have the ability to replace them if you wear a button out or whatever. You can 3D print these buttons and swap these if needed. So one I just did, where's the, over there. I'm gonna put these two together in the same one and shove it in the bag. And yes, folks, I am just kind of killing some time till about 1 o'clock. And I'm going to take off and hopefully grab Evil Diesel. I don't think he ever responded to me. And we're going to go down and see Echovate, talk to them about some stuff, pay for my Prusa Core 1 that they're going to bring in for me because I tried to do it online and the system was confused. And when I say it was confused, it would say, um, put in your address for shipping. I would put in my address and it would say shipping not available. So I'd be like, okay, I'll pick it up at the store. And I set up to pick it up in the store and it says that option isn't available either. So, but I'm going to pay for my Core 1. I'm getting a Prusa Core 1 kit. So Echovate 3D here in Raleigh, North Carolina is a distributor for Prusa. And I believe they've got some people trained to actually do maintenance and stuff on them as well. Waters, you can talk more about that. Um, but yeah, they're also a bamboo reseller here in town. They do e-packs, LDO, cookie CAD. I don't know if they're going to be selling Prushman. I think they're just doing the printers. But cookie CAD, Polymaker, e-packs, new makers as well. Capricorn, all kinds of good filament brands. Greengate. Here they can even get pellets from Greengate. On you. Oh, up, down, check. Orient. So I am assuming that the orientation for these decals are the same as the way they are printed. So that's why I'm trying to put these on there facing a specific way. First fun task of getting used to doing things in small size with the TinyMaker. Cut out and install your decals in a tiny manner. Got an up arrow and a down arrow that goes on the up and down arrows. Yay. Yeah, you could probably MMU some labels onto them as well, if you were so inclined. But you should be able to 3D print these buttons either in FDM or in the resin. Well, you wouldn't MMU in the resin, but you could 3D print these buttons in the resin on the resin printer just to be super cool like that. Jenna, how is your printer redo coming along? You should be getting pretty close to wiring things up, I would expect. Going to make some more coffee. Hey, that's waters you will always get to take off to get more coffee. That will always be allowed on this stream. Um, we do have a um, we'll be printing with this on Tuesday or by Tuesday or the next stream. We've got a couple of things left to do on the Singer sewing machine that, like I said, I will finish that up once the parts come in. I'm just waiting on a couple of parts to come in. And apparently, the postal system apparently is all kinds of jacked up or whatever. It is what it is. So when those come in, I will finish packing that last grease wick for our spring and get that one installed. I've got a new or a spare light coming in, a light fixture coming in that I'll be able to hopefully at the very least just use the screws in to get the light going. I will leave this out on the bench though, because we will be plugging this in, and it uses the same USB-C cable to run this side as well. So yeah, this side is going to have to be way adjusted to strap down. I don't think it has to be like super, super duper tight, but we do want it to whoops. We do want it to hold the part down to the tray so that it doesn't go anywhere and get damaged when we're putting it in the case. Same thing for our printer. It'll sit in there. We'll have that go over the top. Probably move it off to one side so that it's not resting on the top, scratching the top. Put it over there on the side. This whole thing slides in. You do have a spot that you can put your bottles and other things. Right now I've got my bottles in the front. It'll zip up. And you've got your little 3D printer that you can travel with and print. Now, once again, it's going to be resin. So just be mindful that you're going to have the resin chemicals and the IPA and stuff in here, right? But, you know, just be aware of where you're taking it. Like, you don't want to take it into a school setting, right? Because then you're dealing with little ones. And this is why I didn't get rid of the foam either, because you'll see the foam could also be put in on the side to add a little bit of extra protection potentially to the whole printer setup. Kind of pushes that off. So put it on one side to add, like I said, a little bit more protection. But yeah, here we go. I will be reviewing the other videos that are out there. I will be trying a print. I just don't want to do it since I'm getting ready to leave and head over to Ecovate right now. So, yep, this is such a cute little printer. I'm curious to see what the resolution is of it and how well it prints. Because once again, you can get really, really detail on like your Warhammer figures, but they're like that tall. And the more detail you get, yeah, it looks cool, but then you have to try and paint all that detail. So yep, there's that setup. We'll get into this. Like I said, the sewing machine is up, it's running, it's doing sewing machine movement things. We did get the water-cooled 1.5 kilowatt spindle in for the rat rig mill that I'm beta testing. I had originally ordered the 2.2 kilowatt with the 110 VFD. Both these suppliers said you're going to have unreliability trying to run 2.2 on 110. They highly recommended against that, so they shipped me the 1.5. They have offered to, how about this? I had paid for the 2.2. They sent me a 1.5. Rat Rig said, based on our failure to communicate all the stuff properly, if you want, we will refund the full price of the 2.2 kilowatt spindle without you having to ship back the 1.5 kilowatt. And that way, if you want to upgrade to the 2.2, you can. I'm like, okay. So that's pretty cool that they're willing to do that. But I need to get that fitted up, and I don't have a way of streaming that at the moment because both the mills, both the Milo and the Rat Rig mills are out in the shed, and I don't have reliable internet connection out there. Yeah, I might have reliable wireless out there now because our router is a lot closer to that side where the shed's at. So I have to try it. I haven't tried it since we moved the router, and I don't have any recording equipment. I'd have to literally take one of the cameras and my laptop and try and set everything up through the laptop, which would be a completely different setup than what I've got going today. So I'd have to get that figured out. But yeah, that's kind of where we're at. This whole time that we've been chatting, I have been printing over here on the rat rig. And what I'm doing are the cross member pieces. So if you watch Mandic Really, you may see and know what I'm doing here. These are side panels, and the side panels will loosely join together. You'll do side panels on each side. You'll have connecting plates, which is what I'm printing, top, bottom, front, and back. I'm going to actually make it a little bit higher with another 2U section. So it'll be like 8U, 6U, 8U. But this is going to be basically a mini 10-inch rack. And I'm going to install some of my Raspberry Pis in here and a couple of other things, switching and stuff like that, so I can have it on my desk for the testing and stuff that I do on the side. And yeah, so this is going to be a cool little small rack setup that we'll get going here. We'll do that on stream. I've also been printing out some wacky stacky parts from Zombie Hedgehog. I've got a Screwfinity. No. Yeah, he's the Screwfinity. K2 Kevin's the Screw U unit. So I've got a Screwfinity. I've been printing these out. I've got a whole stack over there that I'm starting to work on organizing some stuff so that I need to get organized. I've got stuff all over the place, is the basic gist there. So I'm trying to get myself a little better organized, and partly because we had these hybrid worker bundles from Cisco. So it's a 12-port security device / switch, a separate Wi-Fi that's already set up for the company network. So I plug everything in. It's a Meraki switch, so I get all the security stuff from Meraki. I've got the Wi-Fi unit, so I connected, and it's as if I'm sitting on the corporate Wi-Fi. So I don't have to VPN every day, which is great. And it also comes with a full desktop video conferencing unit that doubles as a secondary monitor for my laptop. So yeah, I get to set that up, which means I can't be doing all the same moving of things around the shop that I do when I set up to stream, because everything that sits here when I'm not streaming goes over to the desk, and I won't have the real estate on the desk to do that anymore. So yeah, spring cleaning, organizing. Believe it or not, a lot of that goes away when I do one of the next projects, which will be the takeoff tool head and the tube going on the Trident 350. And then I've got a Calamity tool head set up for a tube, but that may not go on anything just yet, because I think the other tube, I've got the parts to put the other tube on the Annex Engineering K3. You're cleaning with coffee in hand. There you go. Got to have the coffee. I've sort of been cleaning. I've straightened up so that we can open up the TinyMaker and get that prepped and ready. We will pull this back out Tuesday and start printing with it. The sewing machine is sitting right over here on the floor for the moment. As soon as I get in the other couple of parts, I will bring it back up here and get that other grease wick installed and get the light installed. This is the stuff for the rat rig, for the 2.2 kilowatt spindle, and a replacement part in the smaller box, which is the Z-axis, right? They went to a finer pitch Z-axis lead screw because the weight of the spindle is, when all the motors turn off, the spindle doesn't crash, but it will slowly drop. And if you have a tool head or a tool in it, like an end mill, it'll come down and rest on that end mill. Now you've got a lot of weight pressing down on that end mill constantly, which would be bad. So they went with a finer pitch. It just means taking the Z-axis back apart and doing that, which is not as hard as it sounds with the way they set everything up. And I have another sewing machine. If people are interested, I can also bring that sewing machine up here, or I can bring it up here and show off some things that we didn't do with great grandma's sewing machine, or at least not yet, because I want to validate processes before I do it on a family heirloom. Right? Yes. Yes, I do, Eagle the Dragon. He brought me my Duncan, which we always transfer the majority into here. So it's interesting. We will fill this up with hot water. She'll go make the Dunkin' run. She'll dump the hot water out. She'll dump the majority of my extra large coffee in here, and the rest stays in here for me to hand drink. And then I did get my donuts. So yes, I did get my full Dunkin' run this morning. Thanks to Miss Dragon. Oh, God, one of those is a blueberry. Sorry, I'm going to eat on stream again. Sharing is caring, Pez Liz, so I am virtually sharing the donut experience with you right now. Chocolate haze glazed cake donuts. I like those too. Mrs. Dragon doesn't like them. She prefers standard donuts with chocolate icing. You're going to grab it so you can't forget it. You're drinking some Wawa? Okay. Is that a little bit better than, oh, you're drinking Wawa coffee. Gotcha, Big Jano. Yeah, I was going to say, is that better than Tim Hortons? But that's different. Hey, Evil Diesel, how's it going? Don't choke, please. I need a ride. Yeah. So Evil Diesel, the TinyMaker, the fully portable resin printer, complete with resin printer, miniature size, wash and cure station. The wash station keeps popping off. But we've got the wash station, the curing station, the actual printer, the resin bottles. Give you an idea of the size. I've got 2 resin bottles, got a couple of spare vats. I've got a circuit board for it. There's a spare circuit board. I've got a spare screen for it as well. It's going to be great for printing miniatures and nothing more in size than that. We'll print something with it on Tuesday. I didn't want to start a print on it and have to leave it out while we do it. But it runs 5-volt 2-amp, quality 5-volt 2-amp, so you can plug it into the wall, or you can run it from a suitable power bank. So their suggestion, Free Heathen, is Elegoo and Anycubic. That was their suggestion, was any of the Elegoo or Anycubic rigids works just fine. You normally shoot for a 2-to-1 water intake to coffee intake. I am about like a 0.5 to 8 ratio, and that's 0.5 water to 8 coffee, about. Oh, how's it going, Free Heathen? Welcome on in. I know you're an energy drink guy, and Sadly enough, I've been starting to drink uh, zero sugar monsters on Friday night when we do D&D gaming. So, oh yeah, yeah, most standard resins should be fine. Um, yeah, it'll be fine. Like I said, I need to do a little bit more research to see. Like, I'm assuming that either Chi Box or Lychee, if you've got it, would work fine for it. I'm just gonna have to figure out all the specs and stuff. That's another reason why I don't want to try and get it there today. But we do have the motor installed with one of the grease wicks fully installed on the sewing machine. What we did to start with was we took the grease wicks, and this is a spoon from the kitchen, but it's one of the don't use your good kitchen spoons, folks. This is a basic spoon from the kitchen. We put some grease in the bottom. We stuck the wicks on it. We put some grease on the top of the wicks, and then we just heated the spoon up with you can either do it over a candle or with a heat gun, and constantly turn your wicks. What you're trying to do is get the grease to start going into the wick, because otherwise, if you're putting it in dry and just packing grease around it, it's going to soak up a lot of the grease, and you're going to be repacking your grease like the next day. So go ahead and heat up and let this soak in some grease to start with. Don't get your grease smoking, right? That's bad. You've got it too hot then, but just enough so it starts to soak into the felt wick. Then when you install the wick, it's already got grease at it. When we did the motor, once we mounted the motor up, we've got the one grease wick and it's packed with other grease. We'll do the other one on the bench side, and we mounted the motor and we put a couple of beads across the top of the metal worm gear, so that when we put the hand wheel on, there's already some grease in the workings, and when we started it up, everything was running and it was doing its good things. So that's now running. It's working perfectly fine. Hey Timor, how's it going? um and I'm just waiting for the rest of the parts to get in so I can properly mount the light, test the light out, and add the other grease wick. And that one's going to be done for the time being. I'll switch my focus to all of the hinge materials and stuff that are in the cabinet, get those cleaned up while Mrs. Dragon works on refinishing the cabinet. And while that happens, probably in the background, I've got another Singer sewing project. It's a Singer Model 128 that I picked up that I'm going to do a full and complete teardown of. And that means taking all the connecting rods off and the whole 9 yards and getting those cleaned up, and basically learn my way around reading the service manual so that I can put it together and get all the timing stuff set back up right. Basically build some confidence before I do that full level tear down of great grandma's. I'm also going to try out techniques of repairing the finish of the machine before doing that on great grandma's as well. I do not want to make it worse. And once again, folks, for those that are not aware, if you use my KB3D affiliate link, you are now getting 5% off of your order, and that's every order. Not once, but every order. If you use my affiliate link, you will get 5% off your entire order. And I do get a small percentage sent back to me that I can use as store credit to continue to buy things that I put on the shelf and move around the shelf constantly. But folks, that's kind of where we're going to leave it. It's almost 1 o'clock. I'm going to go ahead and figure out a raid target, and I am going to get out of here to go pick up Evil Diesel so that we can head on over to Echovate 3D and go talk about some future opportunities, and who knows, probably buy some dot filament for days. I hear they don't have the Fibron line yet. But I did get a few things from the Fibron line recently to try out. Because it was one of the things that I don't have yet. We got some PPS CF10. So PPS, this is 10% carbon fiber reinforced PPS. This prints at 310, if I remember right. It prints at 310. And yeah, 310 to 350 and needs an 80 to 90 degree bed temp, heated chamber. Alexa, stop. And it's expensive. So you do this when you have a coupon, right? You do this when you have a coupon. This is half a kilo, and I want to say it was like 70 or 80 bucks for a half a kilo. So I have a reason to get this. I'm not going to share that reason just yet. And then I was going to try some other stuff here. Let me make sure that I don't dox myself. Okay. But we got some Fibron PET G RCFO8. So this is a PET G with recycled carbon fiber. So it's 8% recycled carbon fiber. I believe that is industrial waste carbon fiber. So it's not like they recovered carbon fiber from a piece. This is fiber that's carbon fiber that's never been mixed with resin. So this would be, hey, they're in the process where they're making rolls of carbon fiber, sheets, what have you, for sell. This would be all that carbon fiber that's left over that makes its way onto the floor. This is that type of recycled from the manufacturing process. So this is 8% recycled carbon fiber mixed in PET G. Of course, this is black. This is a 3 kilogram spool. So this is not this is not me just wanting to try it out. I have specific things in mind for this, like death racer, drag racer, and a few other things that will be used for this. So yeah, you're still waiting for some TinyMaker to come in. Especially, they're not sure if they're getting the Fibron line or if they will, because Ecovate is a local community thing, and majority of people, they'll use PETG, they'll use PLA a lot. That's a lot of what they stock. They do have ABS and ASA, but a lot of people aren't doing like the Fibron line type of stuff, right? At this rate, any death racer built out of PLA or PETG doesn't have much of a chance with all these new engines. Well, here's the thing. The death racer is perfectly fine with PLA. We've run PLA and we have yet to hard break a death racer with PLA, right? The very first death racer I did, the base was out of atomic PETG carbon fiber. Yeah, new doesn't matter the way they work. Now the issue I had with doing carbon fiber PETG in my first death racer was the wheels. And I'm talking about these wheels. And they've changed the way they go now, right? One, these are keyed. So that they go in and they're keyed and they're a stronger bond. But in the original ones, you were not threading, but you were driving in a M3 50 millimeter screw. And you were basically threading it in the entire way. Let's think about that. Cutting threads through PETG carbon fiber with a stainless steel screw with a M2 driver head. I would get about 3/4 of the way in and shear the head off the screw. And then have to use vice grips to pull the screw back out. And you waste about 7 or 8 screws per wheel doing that, cutting the threads before you can get a screw in without destroying the head off of it. And don't even think about getting it back out afterwards. This right now is printed in standard PETG, so I have these. I'm going to reprint it in the PETG RC8 and see how I like those. And one or the other will be used as the base, and this is for Mrs. Dragon's Death Racer. Right? Evil Diesel's been doing the one for KB3D. Don't get lost in a new subject. We got plans, and I have a past from the kit. Okay, there we go, guys. Evil Diesel's dropping the hammer and saying, I got to go. And I will also say that I've got to go because it's a sunny day outside, and I'm getting a kitchen pass from doing yard work from Mrs. Dragon, so I've got to go as well. But yes, we've got some new engineering materials. We'll be using them for various projects on the stream. And yeah, when we come back next time, we will be printing with the TinyMaker. So we will have 3D printing content again on Tuesday. We'll be doing this. And if I can get the parts in, maybe we'll start assembling the frame while this is printing of the Mod 10, which is the all 3D printed 10-inch rack system that Mendick really developed, or not developed, but designed. So training here and coming your way. Go enjoy it. Exactly. That's why I'm getting out and going painting, miniature painting tomorrow at the game stores because it's supposed to be raining. Why not use heat set inserts? Interesting, Rocket Drone. The new design does. The new design does use heat set inserts so that you're using a through channel instead of trying to cut threads or do 3D printed threads. But yeah, I've got to go, folks. Let's figure out who we're going to raid into. Ooh, Ratsky's got some combat robotics going. That's always good. That would be another reason to have engineering filaments, right? So we're going to go watch the combat robotics stuff. So you would want the more rigid materials for combat robotics rather than the Death Racer, right? The Death Racers are really just giving you a lot more hits, but you're not hitting hard enough to really break and shatter things unless you don't follow the printing guideline. And with that said, folks, thank you so much for being here. I'm getting the raid started to go over to Radsky. Once again, this is Combat Robotics. You can build these out of 3D prints in various weight classes and stuff. And you can always use 3D prints to make, to mount things on the larger robots as well. So join me as we go over to that. I will raid and run, of course, because I got to go pick up Evil Diesel. And then we're going to go see Waters and others over at Echovate 3D here local in Raleigh. So thank you all for being here. Thank you for following along on that sewing machine project. If you guys are interested, let me know via X or Discord or wherever you see me out there in the interwebs. And let me know if you're interested in seeing more sewing machine content because I've got another sewing machine that I'm going to work on. So just let me know. Thank you everybody for being here. And we'll continue on some 3D printed projects here on the stream this next week. And you guys have a great day. Enjoy the weather. If you got good weather, got bad weather, stay inside and play with the printers. But keep printing, keep innovating, and we'll see you guys next time. Bye now. And for those of you that are watching this as a replay or a rerun on YouTube, if you like what you're seeing, please feel free to subscribe and like the video down below. Uh, check that bell so that you can be notified of future videos. And YouTube's going to suggest a new video over here. Take care, everybody, and